Good afternoon. My name is Ray Cool. I'm CEO of PBSI Technology Solutions, and I want to thank you for joining today's webinar, Securing Personal Information. Today is the first of 4 cybersecurity education webinars that we're going to provide for clients and friends of Scroggs & Greer. I'd like to thank our friends and colleagues at Scroggs & Greer who envisioned the need for this information and have been actively involved in the planning for these webinars. As a firm and collectively as a group of individuals, I want to say that over a number of years, Scroggs & Greer demonstrates consistent integrity and caring about clients in many, many interactions. And I'm honored personally and as a firm, honored to partner with Scroggs & Greer in providing this content. So the goal of this series is to inform and educate, to help improve knowledge about electronic security, and to provide practical information about what we need to do to change and how to do so. So we have a varied audience today, many healthcare organizations, businesses, nonprofits, and other professionals. We'll try to address individual issues that are unique and important for each of you. This is part of a 4-part series. Today, there was a lot of content to cover. I'll talk quickly. I'll apologize in advance for that, but we will be finished in 1/2 hour. So the goal in discussing overviewing securing personal data is the broad brush. If you only could get one set of information, that's what we're going to try and cover. The details, however, associated with email security practices, which there are many, file encryption and password management, very, very important topics we'll cover in individual webinars where we've got really, really good content. So some of you already know a lot about security, and you may want to confirm or increase specific areas of knowledge. Some of you have an understanding of security basics. You know there may be some holes in your knowledge. And some of you know that security is important, and it's time to learn more and to take action. For everybody, I believe there will be something of value. So the overview of security protection in general is first and foremost to establish protection from the open internet. Now I'll talk about each of these topics. Securing PCs, laptops, phones, and other wireless devices. Protecting, which means encrypting important information. Backing up, learning principles, and we've got a list of principles that I think will be really helpful relative to secure behavior. And then how do we know if our protection is working? We've installed the right antivirus and tools and so forth. How can we know if our security is really intact? So that's the broad brush. Some of you have known PBSI for years. Thank you. I see that many of you are PBSI clients that we've known for a long time. And some of you, this will be your first exposure to PBSI. So we are a technology services provider for hundreds of clients in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. We have lots and lots of staff. And as CEO, I'm very blessed to be able to know that we have so many folks who've been with us for so long. And I know that knowledge helps clients. We have lots and lots of experienced staff. Our business is proactive IT and security for healthcare, business, and professions. So today, the internet is a dangerous place. Those of you who've joined this webinar, you're the, quote, smart ones. You already know this. Some specifics, we have seen a real increase in PC infections and malware that steals passwords. This is rampant. You read periodically on the internet, we're exposed on a daily basis to yet another and yet another attack. So what we want to do today is to help improve the understanding so that folks can know what do we need to do. Key logging software, which means that it's a piece of malware that's been installed on your PC through some inadvertent action that's capturing keystrokes, including passwords, is a very, very dangerous thing, and we'll talk about that a bit, but the important thing is that the victim is not notified. This key logging can go on for months and months and months without any action. Ransomware attacks will notify you, your PC's been encrypted and we want money from you, but key logging can be more dangerous. So what do we do to prevent it? How do we know if it's present? The numbers are staggering. 3.1 billion email addresses are available for sale on the dark web, a place where you and I never go, but we have a window into. Of them, 1.2 billion include exposed cracked passwords. So this is really important. it's fundamental to understand the importance of this. The hacks don't take place, generally speaking, because you made a mistake or I made a mistake. The hacks take place because we put an email and password on a site that was hacked, and therefore we've been exposed through no fault of our own. Once that exposure is there and that information is for sale, hackers can and do use that to exploit. So one of the very significant dangers we'll talk about in the password management webinar, the last webinar, is exactly what to do about the problem of passwords, why it's critically important not to reuse passwords. And here's one of the main reasons is if you've used a password, email and password on a site that's important to you, and that same combination has been compromised somewhere else, you could be giving hackers the keys to the kingdom into your current email, into your current Outlook, into all kinds of accounts that you've used the same password. So it's very difficult, but really important to understand. Don't reuse passwords. So I'm going to really quickly go to a link that shows us, it's one of the frightening places. This is where we see there are 3.1 billion compromised credentials out there, and we can drill into this, but I won't take the time today to do that. This is the number of data breaches that have occurred this year so far, and the number of servers that are currently infected hosts sending out compromised information. So you can see here on my screen on the right-hand side that the sources of these attacks are a list. Some of these would be a surprise to some and some would not, but this shows us that these attacks are worldwide. We are not protected in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana from what's going on out there. So it's very important to know that this is going on. And if you wish, you can contact us. We have a query we can do into the dark web where we'd be happy to help anyone understand for their organization or individual if your password has been compromised. So fundamentals, protect yourself. Yourself could be an individual PC in your home, or it could be an organization with a location and a bunch of devices in that location. But being protected from the open internet is two basic things. One, a firewall that's set properly. So firewalls are inexpensive devices. The setup of them is inexpensive, but it's really important that you have it set correctly. You buy a firewall at Best Buy or wherever, and well and good, but they need to be set not to report things in from inside of the network, which is generally not the default setting. They need to use commonly available, inexpensive, advanced packet detection technology. What this does is it makes that firewall the first point of defense, where incoming traffic is either rejected so that it's not passed internally, so nobody on the network is contacted, and incoming traffic and outgoing traffic can be filtered. It's an important thing. And then wireless. What's this got to do with the open internet? Well, here's a piece of information you may or may not know. Free, I literally mean free, hacker tools are available to any high school kid that can decrypt almost any password given proximity and time. So proximity includes our parking lot, our driveway, in front of our neighbor's house, other businesses that might be in the same building. Proximity allows these tools to run password crackers that in some cases will crack a password to your wireless in seconds. In some cases, if you have a very long complex one, it can take hours. So the best defense is on your wireless network, use a complex password, and most important is long. So wireless may seem, everybody has wireless, of course, but yours need to be secure or you've opened up your network. Okay, so then for most of us, we're not concerned about the corporations or the practices security. We're concerned about our own desktop. So here are the basics of securing a PC. First, every PC must have antivirus. This is a HIPAA requirement for medical offices, and it must be updated on all PCs. And it's important to note, don't use a free antivirus. Antivirus is not expensive. All antivirus vendors offer free versions. So why do they offer free and non-free? What's the difference? And the answer, of course, is there is a difference. It's not worth the risk. Patch management. So this is also very important. Other than email compromises where I've clicked on the wrong thing, unupdated software patches are the key reason why most networks get attacked. If you look at the big hacks out there, we could discuss any number of them. Most of the big ones started with an unupdated software patch on some PC or server where a hacker got underneath the surface. So how does that happen? Once they're underneath the surface of the network, then potentially they have keys to the kingdom. So what we need to do is make sure our PCs are set to update not just antivirus, but Windows, apps, and browsers on an automatic basis. So what the problem is once security patches are released, whether it's Microsoft or Adobe or Apple, whoever the vendor is, they release a security patch. This same routine goes on hundreds of times per year, probably thousands of times per year, where day one, Microsoft understands that there's a security problem with XYZ software product. They go about fixing the problem, they get ready to release, they do release the fix, and then they announce it to the world. We have now released a security patch, and it fixes XYZ issue. So now hackers are on alert. They're paying attention to these. Oh, what did they fix? Oh, I didn't know there was a hole in Windows 7, that if it's prior to a certain version, you could do this and get under the surface. What do you know? We know how to take advantage of that. So now they can and they do send out pings to every IP address in the known world, which is on the internet, and look for anything that will report to them that they have that software installed prior to version X, and all of a sudden they're under the surface, and it could be a keylogger, it depends on what the hacker's goal is. But these are folks not looking for you, they're looking for any device that they can get to that will respond. And then they'll find out what they can do once they're under the surface. So what do? We make sure we have the right tool in place to update our patches automatically. And two, as an end user, when I'm prompted, do I want to update? The answer is always yes. So I'm not saying buy the next version. I'm saying if you get a message that says there's a new security patch or there's a patch available for your current software, beware for fake messages, but presuming it's a real update from Microsoft or whatever, yes, you want to update. Do you want to reboot? The answer is yes, always yes. We have to keep our patches up to date. It's a really important part of security. Another really key thing is vulnerability scan. So most antivirus can and will run a vulnerability scan, which looks for and finds a host of different things that might be okay or not okay on a certain PC. The question is, who is receiving the alerts and acting on the alerts? How many of us know how to find the messages that are being delivered to our PC? So this is one reason why we recommend, and HIPAA requires, security monitoring be in effect. Somebody needs to be paying attention to alerts. So have your PC scanned every night and do something when alerts take place. So another really key, software downloads. If I'm a PC user in an organization, I hope my organization has the policy in place that says no software downloads without manager approval. Okay, so you're a manager in an office. What are you going to do if somebody comes to you and says, can I download X, Y? The answer is, unless you know there's a business reason for it and you have somebody with a technical IT or your support company has said, yeah, that's okay, the answer is no. It seems Byzantine possibly, but downloads are risky, and none of us really know how always to evaluate whether something's okay or not. So the easiest thing is keep my PC clean. And that's true of home PCs as well. So the highest risks and the most violated: screensavers, weather apps, coupon sites, free movies online, free anything that you think you've clicked on a site to get something free, and all of a sudden they're installing a piece of software in order to execute that free movie, and now you've downloaded some malware and you can't take it back. Okay, secure our desktops. Also secure our portable devices. Hopefully everybody who has a smartphone uses a passcode. It's really important. If you've got anything on your phone at all, including your contact list and emails and phone numbers, use a passcode. And do not store saved passwords. On laptops in particular, storing saved passwords is a big no-no. And if a laptop is lost and the passwords are stored to whatever sites or remote access, then you have potentially really, really large issues. Okay, I'm going to describe encryption briefly today. We'll dig into this topic in more detail in the third webinar, but the principle of file encryption. Encryption is a term that describes data that can't be read without a private key, which is a password. So if you store a file with a password, that means it's been encrypted. It has a private key. And it can only be, it's garbled until it's opened with that key. So the encryption technology that's used is different in different products, and strength is, it varies, but the fact is, if you're using a password, you are likely, we certainly are far, far better than if not, and it's important to understand why do we do it, in which cases is it important. So not all passwords have to be long. It depends on the importance of the data you're protecting. So we're going to talk about encryption in two contexts. One is at rest. At rest means that file is sitting on a hard drive. Nobody's touching it. Nobody's opening it. Which files would we want to protect? And the answer is, generally, we're trying to protect personally identifiable information, or PHI protected health information, which includes anything that connects a name with Social Security number, credit card number, date of birth, account number, driver's license, passports, medical information, ICD codes, CPT codes. All of that, when combined with a name, constitutes a violation of protection, and that makes the information worth something to a hacker. So why are we protecting our PCs and files at rest? The answer is, we're protecting ourselves against a potential hacker, because if I was hacked and somebody were able to explore my hard drive, what could they learn and what would they find? So at rest, there's a range of risk assessment that each of us need to go through to decide if we need to encrypt our files at rest. But one place that we have no question we all need to be aware, and this is maybe the biggest thing that we see violated, and I believe our friends at Scroggins Greer would agree with this as well, that people send protected, sensitive information by email all the time. And you really can't do that if it's got Social Security numbers. So tax return preparation information, anything related to healthcare that has patient information in it, you are not permitted, if you're a medical office, to send that information by email or receive it unless it's encrypted. So the three choices you have are to encrypt the email, which means using an encrypted email protection tool. So these generally aren't expensive. You have Office 365, you add $2 a month for advanced threat protection, and you have given yourself the ability to encrypt any email, which encrypts the entire exchange between you and your recipient. Encrypting attachments is another variation, where if you save a document with a password and then email that in its encrypted form, then what you need to do is communicate with the receiver what that password is, and don't do it in the same email. Here's my attachment and the password is. Instead, use a different medium, text, phone message, something else. So encrypting the email itself, attachments, or using a shared file sharing portal like Scroggins Greer's ShareFile. This has been set up for your protection so that you can submit documents without needing to deal with any hassles on your own part. Okay, so one other thing that I'll just mention, everybody understands the importance of backup. As a technology company, I want to say it is so frustrating when we see, and which we do on a periodic basis, those who were backing up, they thought they were backing up, they're pretty sure they were backing up, then something happens and there is no backup. Disasters do happen, whether it's a hardware failure or a ransomware attack, unintended deletions of files. Automatic backup is very simple and it's very inexpensive and it's important. I just want to say, you're talking about security, especially in protecting against ransomware. Backup is really important. And though most folks really pay attention to their servers, we find just lots and lots of examples, home PCs and office PCs, where data is stored on C drives, it's not backed up or it's not backed up frequently, and all of a sudden there's a problem. There's a ransomware attack or there's a failure, and there are options. So I won't delve into those in lots of detail, but this is really inexpensive. You want to talk about one of the very basic building blocks, make sure your data is backed up. So hopefully you're accumulating an action list. So there's a very short list of other principles I want to mention. One is the Internet of Things, IoT. So this is anything that is, and these things are proliferating, anything that has a wireless connection. And so many things today, TVs, printers, thermostats, doorbells, all kinds of examples, cameras, appliances, home speaker systems, they come with default passwords. Change the password immediately. If you have a refrigerator that can communicate with Kroger, please change the password if you didn't already do that, because it's an open door. And potentially it lets a hacker into your home network or your work network. Simple, make sure you do it. Phones. Most of us are experiencing increasing, regularly, frustratingly increasing examples of phone calls coming to us, whether it is an obvious scam. The fact is, don't answer and do block unknown numbers. This is a personal decision, but what we see really happening, and you may too, is that increasingly callers get numbers from Google Voice or wherever other source, and they're calling us from the same area code and frequently from the same 3 digits as your mobile number. So you see that combination, unless you know the person, don't answer it and block it. And just be aware that there are all kind of vishing attacks in process. So vishing is the same thing as phishing by email. It's done by voice. I guarantee Microsoft will not call you to see if your computer is running slowly. So another thing, privacy settings. So many people don't know how to go to their own PC and change their settings. If you're using Windows 10, this is under accounts and privacy settings. Out of the box, your privacy settings are set to on. So this is what the screen looks like to change your privacy settings, where advertising IDs and websites being able to use your advertising information, turn those off. Personal decision, just a recommendation. And most PCs are set to block pop-ups. There's additional software. uBlock Origin is a really useful tool. I use it on my PC that does all kinds of blocking to let you know that there's something unusual in a click that you just made. So avoid unfamiliar sites for downloads. I made this mistake several years ago and learned an indelible lesson. I was trying to install a browser that wasn't on a PC, and I did a Google search for it, and the first thing that popped up was a free download. And instead of making sure that I was on the vendor's site, if you're Adobe, downloading an Adobe, make sure you're on Adobe's site. Don't click on another site that offers free download of that product, because they frequently come with malware. And free music and free movies, they are not free. And fake download buttons, you just have to really pay attention to exactly what you're clicking on. So then we haven't dealt with in detail, but we will. Really important, email security. We're going to go through a workshop on encrypting files, and password management, a really critical issue. We'll deal with those upcoming. So now I'm going to do a really quick demonstration of what I'm referring to as online security monitoring. That is a bundle in our case. Now, PBSI is not the only firm that offers this kind of bundle. So whoever your IT company is, obviously we're available to assist clients, but the purpose of this webinar is not to sell products or services, but to educate. So what does it mean to have antivirus, patch management, vulnerability scanning, and online backup that are monitored? So I'm going to quickly go to a demonstration. This screen is a live view of PBSI's online monitoring dashboard. So client names are over here on the left. I've picked just PBSI. So on the right, you're only seeing devices at PBSI. So this is looking at PBSI's on the top of the screen. I'm going to call this the north panel. These are the names of individual PCs at PBSI. So each PC is reporting into a dashboard. So the way online monitoring works is you start by establishing a relationship with a security company, whether it's PBSI or someone else. Software is installed on each device on your network that is called an agent. An agent then reports the status of 20 or 30 or 40 different things every 15 minutes to an online monitoring dashboard. So the alerts that come from that bring to the awareness of a tech who's paying attention to all the monitoring of all of these devices, and they're filtered by an alert system where now if a virus is acquired or a backup fails or a security event takes place, there's an immediate notification of somebody whose job is to pay attention to this. So what I'm doing here, I've selected PBSI, and I'm going to look at PBSI only for the workstations who have Ray in the name. And so you can see I protect my home PC, my laptop. I'm going to pick my desktop PC for this short demonstration. The technicians are paying attention. They're not looking for how's Ray doing, how's Joe doing, and so forth. They're looking for alerts. So there are green, yellow, red alerts that take place, and you might imagine that a failed backup would be very high, an active virus would be very high. But in this case, I'm looking at Ray's PC to see what can be learned on Ray's PC. Well, first, we want to know the list of checks. These are the things that were reported in within the last 15 minutes. Is everything running okay on Windows? Are there any failed logins? This is one of the very important things that are checked. A failed login would indicate that there's some kind of malware that's present on Ray's PC that's connected to the outside and it's attempted to be connected to directly. So this didn't mean if there were failed logins that the firewall failed. It probably means that the PC user had clicked on something and now there's malware. So there's some really important things. Physical things like the RAM's okay, the hard drive's okay, and antivirus is up to date, backup and recovery is up to date. So these are the things that, and that the status of patches are up to date. So this checks antivirus status, vulnerability scan status, and the status of patches. So in this case, I'm going to look at the status of patches, and it shows that all the things that should have been updated have been, with one pending. Pending is the status that says it's about to be updated next time this evening. I look at a different PC and I see that there's also one pending there. I believe I found an example here where there was a failed patch update. So this was attempted. So if a technician saw this, they would say reprocess failed. So why did that fail? It was probably because it was turned off. And now it's turned to pending. So patch updates are really important. The fact that somebody's looking at this, we have somebody going through each client at least once a week, reviewing individually each PC to make sure that there are no unattended issues. And that's if there are not broad security alerts. So I'm also able to see the status of backup. And on Ray's PC, the green line means it backed up successfully each of these days, and there was a problem that was completed with errors, probably because there was a file open at the time, and we can access that backup history on any device. I can also see the status of risk intelligence. So risk intelligence is a separate scan that we run that identifies all unencrypted, protected information on every device, on every network we monitor. So this identifies how many vulnerabilities were found, and we had over 200 devices on this day, down to a lower number on this day, of devices that found exposed information. So this is a really valuable, useful thing. This looking for failed, where protected information was not encrypted, that is identified, and so we're in contact with each client where that happens and helping make sure that the protected information is mitigated. It's either encrypted or it's removed. So very quickly, that's what online security monitoring looks like. So summarizing what we've talked about today, that we want to make sure that desktops, laptops, and phones are protected, that we've encrypted the data that we're responsible for, that we're backing up and checking that, knowing if our PCs are safe, and that other devices are attended to as well. And so some important details associated with this we're going to be covering soon. Email security practices we're going to talk about in the next webinar. How do we make sure and know how to evaluate emails? What behavior, how can we see what's bad, what's okay, and what are some principles about this? Very important information. File encryption, we'll do a workshop on how to encrypt and why to encrypt and how that works. And then we'll cover passwords. This is a problem for all of us that is really, really difficult. I dare say that nobody listening to my voice right now would answer the question, are your passwords completely secure and updated and you're not doing anything you shouldn't be doing in those passwords? I doubt that any of us would say 100% yes. So there's some simple, and using a password manager that really help. So it's important information. So we are finished with content, and I want to thank you for your attendance and thank you to our friends at Scroggs & Greer who made the decision to make this information available to you. You're welcome to contact us. As a simple fact that you are a Scroggs & Greer client, for individuals and for organizations, you'll receive a significant discount on security services that are cost effective. But again, here's contact information. If you'd like to get in touch with us, we will not follow up with you from a sales point of view unless you contact us, because we're providing information. And I want to thank you for your attendance. We are finished.